as you walk up the ladder or those rungs of life, as you're coming down those rungs, as I am now, you're going to need those rungs. You need those rungs there. So don't ruin them. Don't destroy them.
Welcome to the next episode of Grit Rising. When I got this project started a couple years ago, it was an exploration into what makes people tick, what makes people do something significant. And the recurring theme that keeps coming up is a mentor, a father, a mother, somebody that looked out for them. So this episode's personally special to me. I get to have my father, my mentor, one of my best friends, come do this with me today. And so excited to share his story with you, because the whole idea of grit and where we come from, another recurring theme that's come up is adversity. How do we as successful parents, manufacture adversity? Tell me a little bit about your grandparents or your parents moving here during the Great Depression, where you lived, how you got to a little bit of where you are today.
It was during the war. My dad and mom lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they saw these pictures of this beautiful water and all these recruitment magazines about moving to California, going to work for McDonnell Douglas, who now is Boeing. And so my dad sent my mom out here. She ended up in a phone booth in Santa Monica's with her no shoes on, and told my dad, says, I don't know if we're going to work out here, but you're going to move out here. So my mom went over to McDonnell Douglas the next day, put an application in for herself, got a job. She literally worked on a B-52 for the war. My dad came out and he met somebody that suggested that he work for the newspaper rather than work in the aircraft industry, and he got a job in the newspaper business. So they both got jobs. They both started right at the bottom, and they worked very, very, very hard. Fast forward, post-war days, of course, were booming days for everybody to work and, make America as great as you can in those days, okay? And they thrived, but they thrived with three jobs. My mom literally had 3 jobs. My dad had 2 jobs, actually a third, but really the one that he had really 2 full-time jobs. And so it was hard. And so the kids all worked stuffing newspapers at 3 o'clock in the morning to help my dad and my mom, but also eventually she got into the newspaper business as well. So growing up as a kid, though, it was just being a kid. Waking up at 3 in the morning was just normal. That's what we did. And by the way, we weren't the only kids doing that. And a lot of kids were doing whatever they could do to survive. A lot of work. And so they eventually built their newspaper business, if you will, to a pretty good level, to where we got a house and got to go to high school and got to play some sports, and everything worked out really well.
So you go to Long Beach Poly, set some records, football and baseball.
Yeah.
Then you go to Long Beach State.
Yeah. Set
some records.
Yeah.
And then you get out and you're trying to play for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And you're moving up. Back then, minor league baseball wasn't very profitable, but you're moving up. And then what happened from a tragedy standpoint?
Well, my dad, who had gone to one of my games, I thought he had a heart attack, and he did have a heart attack, but it led to him having cancer. And within a few months, he dies of cancer. And it was on a Friday. That's the way I tell the story, at least. It was on a Friday and a Monday. I walked in and told the skipper, or the manager at that time, that I'm done. You don't make any money. I don't see the future. And there wasn't much of a future, really. Maury Wills was a shortstop for the Dodgers. And I don't think really. I think my heart was not in it anymore. So all right, I quit and went to work with my mom, stuffing newspapers and trying to help her, trying to keep whatever business we had going. My sister had her own family to think about, and my brother was still trying to do his thing, so it was my turn to do it. Shortly after that, my sister gets cancer, dies at 42. Wow, another shock. I had just entered the insurance business to try the insurance business kind of on a part-time basis. So that was hard, still working both jobs. The insurance business was really hard. But I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually making the insurance business. Then my brother ends up getting cancer and he died. So he died at a really young age too. So it was really just my mom and I in the end of it. Then I was in the insurance business working still pretty hard, trying to make what I could. Still wasn't doing really well. I would say it was probably maybe 8-9 years into it before I really started making any real headway at building the business.
The guys that have known you for a long time said that you came out of Long Beach and you have a hustler mentality, meaning worried about the next deal or the next opportunity. Talk a little bit about, it's not like you were living on the street, but at the same time you weren't blessed with coming from Rockefeller or anything like that, any sort of wealth. Talk a little bit about the mental side of how you think that made you a good life insurance salesman.
That's a tough question. All I can think about in those days of eating Campbell's soup, 19 cents a can, I think it was. It wasn't about food. It was about, owning a car or a house. I was like, I got to get somewhere. The food's food, and so I guess being driven, I didn't worry about the next can of soup. I worried about getting in the game. I worried about buying something that would appreciate. So I had to save money. I worked for an individual that, in fact, he just got an award that I just received that was very heartfelt for me because he received it back in the 80s. And he had always taught me, he said, you need to set aside 30% of what you make every year. And I'll bet you there's not one in this room who puts 30% away. And I did. 30% every year I put it away. And so I got enough money, bought a house, sold that house, bought another house, was married, started having kids. I guess my making the next deal, or whatever you might say, there was always a deal to be made. You just had to hang around long enough to make it happen. One of the greatest breaks I got is start working for a client that sent me a card, said he was interested in a baby book. I used to deliver baby books to people. Maybe they might be interested in insurance those days, believe it or not. I'd go door to door, but there was a doctor that actually returned the card, and I actually met with him. I couldn't figure out why he wanted to do business with me, but he did. And then I went on and did business with about 30 of his doctor buddies. Breakthrough. Everything started happening for me.
So on those breakthroughs, you have some quotes that you said throughout the days. I think one of them is, so you never know when you're being judged for a greater position in life. Expand upon that.
Well, I have what I said I should have written a book, because I have all these little sayings that I used to say. That one was, make every moment a great moment, for you never know when someone else is measuring you for a greater position in life. I don't know you, but I guarantee it, I'm going to treat you with respect, because I never know whether or not there's an opportunity that may be there for me and you. So that's the way I kind of treated my life, to make every moment a great moment. I used to say the first 6 feet, the first 6 seconds of any meeting is very important. You don't know that person. Shake his hand, say hello. It's the most important meeting you're going to have with that individual. Whether you ever see him again, it was the most important meeting if he left. But if you see him again, of course, obviously, it means you've gone on and become a friend or a client or whatever. So I have different ones today, Trent.
Keep going.
Well, he hasn't told you this here, but I sit here today with cancer. Not good cancer, but I came up with a new one that people talk about life being a journey. While I agree with that, I say it a little differently. I was an athlete, so I say that I played the game. So, meaning I played the game and I won. As far as I'm concerned, then the game is over. Now, does that mean my life is over? Not necessarily. There's still a journey out there. But the line that I put in my book, if I read it, is that play the game, win the game. And I think I've done that. So there's one.
I'd agree. I think this last weekend you had, your kids flying and grandkids flying from all over the country. That's to me, that's winning the game. I mean,
Definitely
for
win.
them to come in for your birthday and spend that time, that means you're winning the game. You're having that kind of an impact on people.
Yeah, and I want my legacy to be a win. I worked really hard at that. Hopefully it comes out that way. Not everybody's going to like you in life. Not everybody's going to think you did the right thing by everybody. But part of running that race and believing you won the race, I've accepted Christ into my life, so I feel like not only have I gotten to the finish line, I've now won. Everything here is up. It's nothing but good. So,
Throughout that 81 years, you've had ups and downs. You can't help but have adversity through that. If you were to think of a failure that you've had that made you a better person, what would that be?
oh, failures in my wife with my wife. I'm on my third marriage. It's you talk about living this life and working really hard, and you did. And I worked really, really hard. Maybe too hard. Maybe didn't give enough back to my spouse. But by the way, I wouldn't change where I am today for anything. With my Bree, my new wife of 25 years or whatever it is. But the mother of my children they're fabulous. I look at them. If you look at my kids and just if you've gotten an opportunity to look at some of those photos from last week, I'll put those 4 kids and 8 grandkids that I have up against anybody. There's really nothing wrong with those kids. Those kids are the four kids that I have all married, sort of. Have kids, own their own home, doing really well. And the grandkids, they're all in college or graduated, all athletes, all superb athletes, and just great kids. They're not a better family around than the Bryson family that I know of. And by the way, that might sound egotistical, and it is. I feel very, very, very proud.
When you say play the game and the game you played and you won, and you look back and you look at other people that you grew up with, your contemporaries, that played the game and lost or didn't play the game right, what do you think the biggest difference was for somebody that has accomplished what you have with business, family, personal, athletics versus some of those that you grew up with that had the same talent,
Yep.
maybe more talent,
Yep.
gifts not,
Yep.
parents not? What do you think the biggest flexion point was?
I relate it to golf. You're playing a round of golf and you go double bogey, bogey, bogey. If you just take patience, just relax, you're going to make a birdie. You're going to make another birdie. going to make a par. All of a sudden, at the end of the day, you're going to have a good round. I look at it that way in life. Patience. Will it come to you? It might. But if you don't have patience, you'll never know. So I think patience is extremely important. You're going to be, maybe you've heard me say it before, you're on a bad run right now. We should say it all the time. So we're on a bad run. Nothing's happening right. Can't get any prospects. Can't get anybody who wants to do business with us. Then all of a sudden, I used to create things, quota buster or some kind of a campaign or something to sort of stimulate some new interest. And you'd be surprised. All of a sudden, something would happen, and here it comes. And then it comes and grows. Patience. That's what I'd say it is.
On that, it coming and having success, I think one of the things I learned early on in the business, being around you, and specifically business, was the idea of persistency. I was afraid of offending somebody or afraid of calling on them too much. And you said, don't be afraid of being persistent. People will actually respect you for what you believe in. You sold life insurance for a living. People don't wake up in the morning and say, God, I want to go out and buy a brand new yellow life insurance policy today, right?
That's exactly right.
It has to be sold to them.
That's right.
And it's in your heart, you knew it was the right product and what it could do for families and keeping them together. But that persistence, go a little bit further on.
Well, I'd venture to say that, I've said things like you got to give an individual an opportunity to say no. In fact, I used to say that all the time. I said, let me sit down with you, let me show you what I'm doing, and I give you an opportunity to just say no. Kind of made the guy feel, okay, fine. I'm going to say no anyway. And he may not necessarily say no, but he may say no at that particular time. But by the mere fact that I got that meeting, I sat down with him, I went through what I really believe, which really works. Obviously it works. It's certainly worked not only for me, but think about how it's worked for all our clients. That by having that patience, eventually you get that business. If not that business, he'll refer you to somebody else or his brother or whatever it may be. So I think that giving them an opportunity to say no, having a meeting with them, show them what you really believe in, they'll respect you for that, and then patience. It'll all come to you.
I think something happened to me recently where, I lost a big client that I had done a lot for their family. And in this situation, as I came home and I said, if I only did it for that person to get that piece of business, then I'm going to set myself up for disappointment. Like in my heart, I knew that I had helped that person, I had helped their family, I had helped them do what they do. So it gave me peace to say, I know I've done my job. Talk a little bit more about just how involved you've been in, you're the guy that taught me, if somebody you barely know was looking for a job, how you were going to connect them to somebody that you knew was looking for a job. You always were this connector of people. And it could be somebody that was going to have absolutely no impact on your life other than the fact that you wanted to help them.
Well, remember, I always said you never know when someone else might have a greater impact upon your life. So anybody that I would meet, that individual had some form of talent, whatever it may be, and also that individual I may face some point in time. I have another saying, that as you walk up the ladder or those rungs of life, as you're coming down those rungs, as I am now, you're going to need those rungs. You need those rungs there, so don't ruin them, don't destroy them. So even this individual that you may not know very well or don't know how you can really help them, just ask questions. And I've given a lot of guys a lot of work. And that's my bout with cancer, which has been in the last, going through it really kind of heavy for the last, say, month. I've gotten more phone calls from people, not from the insurance business. Oh, I have got a lot of those, don't get me wrong. But I've got more phone calls from people. And again, it may sound egotistical, but guys, I got the right. I've already won this race. So, it's unbelievable how many people call me and just tell me what I did for them. And quite honestly, I don't really even remember some of them. So what can I tell you about that? Nothing more than just do it, because I think it's, again, it will reward you. I don't know about the younger people so much today. I don't deal with the 20s and 30-year-olds as much because my client base is much older. I'm not asked to help people in their 20s and 30s much older. You are. I'm not. So I can't speak for the kind of people they are, but I think all people are basically the same. They just everybody needs a break in life. But you make your own breaks. You ask for help. These people that are calling me today, they had to ask for help, and I gave them some kind of help that helps. I don't know about the new generation. That's more something you could tell me than I could tell you.
I think it's unique because you talk about making your own breaks and you talk about, who it may be, but you're also the most competitive person that I've ever met and most people have ever met. And so how do you wrestle in your own mind with the fact that you created everything for yourself and now you have maybe an entire generation that says, like, hey, what's in it for me, or where are we? And so how do you balance that in your mind of, like, you probably were just incredibly competitive and so went and got it, but now you're saying ask for help, do the things, where does that come into play there?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You'd think that would carry off to the next generation from I've never had the question asked of, nor have I thought about it. So, what I have accomplished, I'll say it again, I won the race. I don't need to run it anymore. So the natural progression would be part of that I ran the race with. I mean, my kids, my grandkids, my wife, they're right there with me. So why wouldn't they have the benefit? So my natural thought pattern is, I won that race. Now, who's there with me, hopefully can benefit. Right now, it's a little tough. Just trying to get through, a thought pattern, particularly one that involves family.
I think when you think about starting the race, grinding through it, achieving what you did, going through some of the failures on the personal side with your wives, and then getting into this where you start to talk about finishing the race, then it's legacy, right? There's people that we remember, people that I remember that I met through you, today, a Bryant or a Wallace or some of those names. Your legacy, what would you want if TJ was doing this interview with me in 40 years, what would you want that legacy to be?
I gotta say what it is what it is. I mean, that's a cheap answer, maybe. I just want it to be what it is.
So authentic.
I have nothing, again, run the race. I run it. I won it. Well, if I won it, it has to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And if I run the race, there's no faults. There's no lawsuits. There's nobody suing me. Never been sued. I think I ran a very, very clean race, and I came out on the top in the end. And I don't want any of that ruined.
What do you think the number one thing in your life caused you to be so good at winning that race? Maybe it's a couple things.
Preparation would probably be number one. But if we really want to think about it, always be prepared. Never be unprepared. So preparation, for sure. And preparation sometimes doesn't mean the day before. That can be months before, weeks before. So educate yourself. I got every degree I could possibly get. CLU, CHFC, gone down the line, whatever was available, I sought it out. I went to the University of Notre Dame for an extension class and for a summer class. What? Yes, I did. I went to the University of Michigan for a summer class for a business degree. So I have a degree. It's not on my wall. I have a degree from the University of Michigan and a degree from the University of Notre Dame because I wanted to be prepared. So that took months. And then when it's time, ball game time, that's when you better have the knowledge. So all that schooling, all those degrees helped prepare me for the event to win the race.
It's so unique because most recently you went a lot in golf. There's no secret there. Most people have no idea that you go and how many balls you hit, how many putts you make on a daily basis to prepare for that competition, or how many ground balls you took, or how much preparation you did for a business meeting. And I know when I'm well prepared for a meeting, I have a far better chance because I already know what they're thinking. I already know. I'm not guessing at stuff. I can get down. But so much of preparation is in the shadows.
Yeah, I'm a grinder. You can relate that to anything you want. I used to have back to business, only so many days in the week. Every Saturday I had a CLU class for me and my salesman. Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, LA. Most of us lived here. Every Saturday morning we had a CLU class because I wanted every one of them to be a CLU. It's a chartered life underwriter, by the way. That's one of the basic degrees of a leader in our business. And then it became CLU. So it just carried on from there. But then when it came to golf, yeah, I'll go out there. I'll putt till it finally goes in. I'll hit wedges till I can finally get them somewhere near the green. Yeah, I'm a grinder. When I'm playing, I grind. And I'm grinding to win. Why grind to lose? I just don't understand it. And I just don't understand why you'd want to do that. So,
yeah, it's impressive. I think about much of my success in business comes from your success, and not in the way that people would think. People, I think, a lot of times think second generation, you just do exactly what you did. But I think the gift you gave me was because you had grinded so hard early on. I didn't have to worry about the Camel Soup, or I didn't have to worry about that. I was able to take a more strategic approach built on the back of something that you had created. And I think that's been such a cool part because, second generation, third generation businesses, for a while, they probably had a bad name in America, though, as try to cancel or create excuses for why people are successful, or instead of just accepting like, hey, this is a pride thing. To be in a second generation business is actually a very, very proud thing for me. But mainstream media might not treat it that way, or public opinion. But I think what's been so cool about us is you set the tone. You gave me the mentorship of all these great things. I remember one of them, I came in early on in my career and I was a little hungover. Do you remember your quote on that one?
What I probably would have said, boy, if you're going to hoot with the owls, you can't soar with the eagles.
Yeah, if you're going to hoot with the owls at midnight, you can't soar with the eagles at sunrise.
That's right.
And that was one of those things where it was dead on because, as you're in business and you're no longer, you can maybe float through a college class or something hungover, but when you're trying to work, you can't do that. And so those life lessons building upon, and then being able to not grind for every deal, but go, how do I take a step back and think about the bigger deal or whatever? Those take longer. Those take patience, as you talked about earlier. Like when I got into the private equity, it was like, what is this? Who are these people? They're going to sell these businesses one day anyways, and then it's taken off for us, and it's been really good. But a lot of that is built on having a foundation that you can go be strategic with. And so I know I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of those mentor things. And I think working in the shadows, the late nights, I don't think most people realize just how hard you worked.
Yeah.
Probably too hard sometimes.
Yeah.
You could shut up some soccer games.
Yeah, probably.
But from that standpoint, I think that's, that work in the shadows that nobody's putting on social media, that nobody's, blah, 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 is what creates the preparation for winning. You've done such a good job of that. Without a lot of accolades, meaning that nobody shows up and says, hey, you putt 500 times today. Great job today.
Yeah. Well, I think that not to give you all the credit of this interview, but a lot that I see in you, I saw in me. You've taken the company to a whole different level, I would never have thought to take it to that level. I would have still been grinding at my level, albeit successful. I would have never taken it to the level that you've taken it. And so for me to sit back and watch this happen as a legacy is as good as it gets. And I would hope that I'd be some part of that. And I think I was. And so it makes me really feel good to see what you've been able to do with your business. And believe me, it was totally different than, if anybody doesn't know that out there, totally different than the business that I built.
Do you think you win? Do you think it's more, I struggle with this all the time, do I win to win or because I am afraid of losing? And I think for me, it's I just hate losing. Well,
there's a book I read a long time ago, and I hate to get into book season and stuff. It's called The Influence of Fear on a Salesman by Frank Budd. And what it talked about was what the fear a salesman goes through. And part of that is that the way you get over that fear is you ask more people to buy, not less. I'm going to relate it back to you in a minute. So if you're going to make one sale out of 10, if you ask 20 people to buy, you'd make 2 sales. Isn't that double one? It is. So the influence of fear he has limits him from making those sales calls. If you can get over that fear, knowing that it's just a game of numbers, right? Well, it kind of relates to that sports too. You need to, and you play a lot of soccer. If you only take 6 shots on goal in the game, probably not going to win. But if you take 30, you're probably going to win. By the way, I know nothing about soccer. Okay, I'm just saying. So it's that fear. It's that fear. You got to be aggressive. You've got to, like I said it earlier, you've got to ask for the business. Take that shot. You need to do that. The more you do, the less fear you'll have.
And if you were to take that into a personal side, with kids, grandkids, if you're telling your grandkids the one thing that you want them to, or a couple things that you want them to learn from their grandpa that won the race so that they can go replicate that, what is that?
Oh boy. I just sent a text to Colton today, who's in grandson in Utah. And so I'm not making this up. I told him I was very proud of him. I was very proud of him that he took a job opportunity in Minnesota this summer where a group of them would be calling the houses, selling pest control. Going from Utah to Montana, one car, one apartment, all these kids and they're going to do it for the summer. And he's failing miserably. He's made one sale. Now they give him a little base, but it's, you're starving to death. I was so proud of him. I said that he did it, and I'm proud that he actually went back and he's going to finish off the job. I did say at the end of it, I says, as soon as the job is done, get out of there. It's a complete loser. Well, what was I really telling him? He was asking for the business. He was actually asking, please give me the business. Pest control, he knows nothing about pest control. All these kids showed up, and they're all there working their butts off, or at least he is. And so I would say, try. You just try. Whatever it is, try.
Yeah.
Do it. Watch your daughter. I saw her wanting to quit. I saw her not. She's a runner. Great runner. I saw her not wanting to do this anymore. You kept encouraging her, and she kept saying, I will. Now look where she is. Yeah. She's in, where is she today?
Santa Barbara.
Oh, I thought she was in Europe or something.
That's next week.
Next week. So, I just think you got to try. Just try really hard.
Yeah, what Coulter's doing, I always say one of the best things that I did was when I had the paper route, I had to go do collections once a month at the end of the month, and learning how to ask for money at that early of an age gets you over that fear, because you have to go collect, and that's how you're going to get paid. And then also you learn that you're going to get a higher tip if you put the paper in the right spot. So you start to interact with your clientele and figure out, where does Mr. Butts wants his paper, garage or on the front porch or whatever. But going and asking for money, a lot of people can't do that. And so I think that time that Coulter's spending is invaluable for him, even if he does fail. And it's unique on the failure, the 1 to 10, 2 to 20, or I would say 10 to 100. The failure isn't on how many times. The failure is on not being successful, right?
Correct.
So if you have to call 100 people to get 10 sales, now you're successful. Cool. Otherwise, you have to be the greatest salesperson, or you have to sell something that's not.
You're not playing the game right.
Yeah, if you're
that's not the game.
Cheating or whatever, that's different. So it's interesting in terms of what success looks like for different people in life and in business, being a father, being a son. Like it's interesting how what failures appear, what you actually think failure is versus what it is.
It's what you did and how you did it, I guess. But it's more asking for the order, doing the basics. I don't care how sophisticated you want to get, it still gets down to that. And talking about a father-son relationship, which I really appreciate. Didn't want to come here today, actually, because I just wasn't feeling so hot, but I'm glad I did it. And I think you get it. I always knew you got it. And you're getting it, obviously, by how successful you are. And as I said, I just hope that some part of your success was how I might have helped. So,
yeah. Well, that's a no-brainer. So much of my success is how you helped. We finish every interview with the guest gets to ask me a question. So, what question do you have?
Where does Bryson go from here? In my mind, you're kind of like a mid-market company. To take a jump to major market requires not only time but capital, etc. Are you at that point, or do you know how to get there yet?
You just asked me a business question at the end of this.
Wasn't it supposed to be?
I'll go there. You're gonna get one more question.
Okay. You can cut that one too.
No. Bryson goes from here. I said this the other day. I think what we're doing is so exciting. What's the quote? If you don't feel like it's work, then it's not work. And so when I get up and I'm excited to wake up, work out, and go to the office. And I love that routine, and I love the people I interact with and what we're doing. So our industry is getting bought up. Guys like us don't exist anymore because they're taking the big checks and they're running. And it's interesting because that's creating even more opportunity for us, because our clients within 18 months, or our prospects, I should say, within 18 months, notice that change. There's a huge void in our business right now because all the best guys in the industry got a big check and are out. And the private equity firms or the strategic companies that own them don't put any, they don't put anything into the fact that there was these relationships, and that at the end of the day, what a relationship does in business is it knows that somebody's going to be in the foxhole with you. Like, yeah, people want to help each other, but they also want to know that, hey, when stuff goes wrong, especially in the insurance business, that you want somebody that's going to be in there with you and supporting you. So that's creating an even greater opportunity for us. So we'll continue to grow, specifically around, supporting private equity companies in terms of what they're buying, and then specifically around the space industry. Long Beach is growing so fast with space and aerospace. The old Boeing properties are being populated again because there is a whole new frontier out there, and a lot of those companies are getting big checks. They don't have these long-lasting relationships with the boring ABC shops, and so they're coming to us for help, and we're being able to help them. And so that's cool. We're able to interact with really fun industries. And I thought as we got bigger, I'd get sick of managing people, but the people we continue to hire, there are people that are going to come and go, and we know it. You almost know in the first 2 weeks, right? Like if somebody's going to make it or not. But those that stick with us, those that have been with us, those people are going to be with us forever, and I think that makes me feel pretty good. So where's Bryson go? We'll continue to grow. I think if you're sitting here in 3 years, which it better be, we're 4 times where we are today. We're at a hockey stick growth mode. So,
Can I ask you another question?
yeah.
How will the Bryson legacy continue?
I think about this often. I think a company that cares about their community. I think that the one thing we didn't touch on that was so much is when I came to town, you said go join the Boys and Girls Club board, go join Rotary, go get involved in your community, and help people that couldn't help themselves. And I think that our legacy as a company that's based in Long Beach, that supports Long Beach, will always do that. Whether it's the local schools, Long Beach Poly. I could have sent my kid to private schools and paid all that money, or I can go to Poly and be a big donor of PTA because those kids need it more than the kids in modern day do. And this business allows us to do things like this. This business allows us to help the community. So I think that we'll continue to invest in our community. We'll continue to invest in the companies that we love and support, and then ultimately have the integrity that we're doing it the right way. We're not taking shortcuts. We're building a business that's the right way. There are people that are going to come in and try to pay our people more money sometimes. There's going to be people that get deals that are short-term sometimes, but I think we're doing it the right way, and so that's something we can always be proud of. What does the word grit mean to you, and how you've lived your life?
Well, grit is my life. I'm kind of angry that you kind of stole it from me. I think that was my life. It's all about grit. Grit to me, I look at grit as grind, ask, like I've said before, do, there's always a yes somewhere out there. That's grit to me. Get prepared, ask for the business, find a yes. It's all grit. It's not that sophisticated about grit to me. It's getting the job done.